we talking about today, Robbie?
Upskilling the workforce.
Oh,
very interesting topic.
Yeah.
Quite a relevant topic given the hiring issues that are going on at the moment, and Definitely. It could be a potential part solution to gaps in the workforce. You can't find the right person. If you've taken 6 months to try and find them, why not just train someone to do that job that you're hiring for?
Yeah, it takes too long. Haven't got time. That's usually why people don't do it.
Yeah, I can't be asked.
Can't be asked.
It's easier. Yeah, I don't actually know it myself.
I don't know.
That's a common one as well. We're hiring this because there's a gap in the team. No one knows how to do it.
Yeah.
It's not a case of I know what I'm doing, but people underneath me that work in my team don't. Sometimes it's no one knows how to do this. Or someone's leaving and they've been relied on for years and years and years, and they're taking all that knowledge with them when they go.
Because they haven't upskilled anyone. There you go. There's the problem. It does happen a lot though, doesn't it? I've definitely seen it where you get, well, okay, put it this way. Who trains you to be a manager?
No one.
It doesn't seem to happen. No. You just seem to graduate and you get to a point where someone goes, hey, you're really good at your job. How about some more money and lead a team of people? And you go, okay. And then it's almost a case of figuring it all out again.
Yeah, and you kind of take how did my managers previously manage me?
Yeah.
What did I like? And then it's like, I think people start off, especially I think managers are the main one because there's no real training or upskilling at all on how to manage a team. Very rarely do we see it.
Really?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of an example where someone's gone, we're going to promote someone to a manager, they're going to be recruiting. Can you sit down with them and talk them through how to hire? Or you hear about those conversations internally?
Yeah, they don't seem to voice it if it is happening. Like, it's not something that I've seen people really shout about to say we have a really great program for developing managers. I know there's like leadership courses people and stuff will go on, but they're quite template ones to do. Who's actually turned around and gone, this is a team that we've had for X amount of months, years, whatever it may be. You're a really good advocate in that team. Now we're going to get you to lead said team or set up a new team with the same sort of thing in mind. So surely all you're thinking about is, okay, what is my experience being managed and how would I like to be managed? And then you kind of amalgamate the two with this new learning that someone may or may not have. So there's more than just one element to whether or not you'll be a good manager or a leader, or like you say, you just take it with the view of my experience was terrible, but I know that if I do X, Y, and Z and just be an arse, I can get the most out of it, being ultimately a bad manager but still getting the same result.
Yeah, I think management's changed. I think management's changed over time as well. I think if you go back historically, managers have always been the bad guy, the bad person. They're the ones that are just deniers, blockers, making everyone's life hell. I think now management has changed.
More to that leadership.
Definitely, yeah, and it is more leadership of what do you need from me to do your job, which is definitely a benefit and a bonus to everyone. But yeah, I think it is just I think it's less done of what did I enjoy and more done of what did I absolutely hate about my last manager and why am I not going to be that person?
Which list is longer? How much I love about my old manager and how much I hated.
Yeah, well I think it's like most things. If you have a bad experience, you're more likely to leave a review on like Glassdoor or on TripAdvisor than if you went, yeah, that was decent, like no issues, it was exactly what I needed. I think it's a similar thing with the management as well of, okay, I really did not like that, so I'm going to make sure I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Rather than what are actually good traits that I've had, and also what someone might have had a good experience with, someone might not have had a good experience with, and that's when it comes down to like personality types, and as well, just because someone's a really good underwriter, for example, doesn't necessarily mean they're the best manager. And just because someone's not a good underwriter, they might be exceptional at managing people.
But just a terrible underwriter, so don't go to them.
Yeah, but just about don't trust them to do any underwriting.
to do that.
But in terms of actually managing a team of people and putting policies in place, they might be really good at that. Yeah,
it's true. So there is like an idea and a concept around upskilling as more of a solution to a talent gap, I suppose, mainly if it's like a real struggle to hire externally because you can't find the right skill or culture fit. So what does it actually mean for someone? And it's like, right, we're going to look at upskilling somebody. Where do they start?
I think number one is identify where the weaknesses are. I think it's all well and good saying we're going to upskill the team to do X. But if that's something that your team are already really strong at, it becomes a bit of a wasted exercise.
Yeah.
So I think number one, it starts with identifying what are the actual weaknesses. where are the skill gaps, what needs to be worked on, and then identifying in that team or in the individuals what's most urgent to their role. And then also you can kind of look at champions within that. Because I'd like to think that in most teams you're not going to have everyone's good at one thing and everyone's bad at another.
You'd like to think so.
You'd like to think. So you'd have maybe mixtures of saying, okay, person A is really good at doing this, person B is really good at doing this, and then they can become champions and train each other.
So you really do just be like a football manager in this case.
Yeah, I think so. That's kind of the approach. It's like, if it's coming from each other, I feel like if it's coming from colleague to colleague, it's probably a little bit more relaxed as well.
You're just looking at a peer, aren't you? And say, we're in this boat together, how do you do it?
Yeah.
What's working for you?
Yeah, especially in our game as well, where I think like a lot of industries, a lot of times you don't necessarily learn it in a classroom. You kind of have to live and breathe it a little bit.
Do. I don't think you can teach people like what a dropout feels like.
No.
You have to feel that pain.
Yeah, and like gut instinct. Like you can't say if someone says this, and this, and they say it in this manner, it means they're lying, because that's not always the case. But when you're around it or you feel it, then you learn from that. So yeah, just having that people around you where you kind of are constantly upskilling without knowing it as well. Yeah. Because you're, especially, a lot of times they'll say, okay, Julian does that bit really well. I like the way that he landscapes that, or Jamie does that well. I'll nick that off them, and I'd like to think vice versa. We're going, I like the way that Robbie said that. I'll put that into how I do things.
You just name drop two people. You're like, oh, hopefully they'll name drop me later.
yeah. You pick things up from different people.
Yeah, I think so. Road. And also, I think as an employer, why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want that as a team leader or manager? If you had an ideal team that is fully efficient, turn up, do their best work, you get on with all the rest of it, and then it's realising another thing, isn't it? It's like, well, why do people actually leave? And then you could almost backtrack from there, because if you are looking to upskill, it's probably because you either want to be ahead of the curve because that's like the thing to do, or it could be because people are leaving. So how on earth do I fill this gap? Or like you said, it could be a complete skills gap that's not within our team at all, and we need it. So what do we do to create that? But the 9 times out of 10, not even 9 times out of 10, how many times out of 10 do we hear, oh, I'm not getting enough career progression as the number one reason why I'm leaving? I need a change. But no one really knows what the change means. They just go, I just need a change.
I need
what
a challenge.
Does that mean? I need a challenge. What kind of challenge? Like a Rubik's Cube? Well, I can give you a Rubik's Cube. Like, that's a challenge. What is it you're not getting? Yeah. And sometimes people don't even know what that means. No. But if you think about it, if someone was coming to you and going, do you know what? If I can get you to X, Y, and Z, that not only will give you a lot better career progression and more satisfaction in terms of your progression, in terms of your career, it will ultimately provide you more money, better security in this job, and a real reason to stay. Definitely. I think when people say, "Oh, I need a new challenge," I've kind of hit the ceiling. I sometimes do struggle to see it sometimes, because you say, well, there's nothing more in that organisation that you can do. If you're a head of a department, or you're somewhere where you say, look, the business hasn't changed in 30 years, then I get it. But I think a lot of times it's just not clear. And I think it's that clarity piece as well. Yeah, definitely. Where's the clarity of what's next for me? And I think people think progression is like, I need it now, which is certainly shorter than it has been historically. But I think a lot of times if you actually break it down, it's like, I just want to know that there is something more for me and what I need to work towards. Yeah. Rather than just being told, you're doing a good job. Keep going. It's appraisals. Appraisals are coming around soon. You'll get a pay rise. You'll be doing the same job. Actually having those conversations of saying, where do you want to improve? What do you want from your career? What does that look like? How can we help you get there? And kind of saying it's okay if that takes 6 months, a year, 2 years. Why not? If you've been in a role for 2 years, it's an entry level position. You've kind of had a pay rise. You're doing well. You're not ready to be a manager yet. But if you can say, look, in 2-3 years we can put you on plan for that, or you've kind of joined, say, customer service. Funny enough, talk about upskilling, something that we found, where they take graduates 6-month basis while they're at university. They learn a little bit about financial services, and then they say, right, when you finish university, come to us. We can put you on graduate programs, and you get a little taste of everything. Yeah. And then you can kind of say, right, I want to go down to this avenue. And then it's that internal mobility. But at least they've got clarity. They don't need to know that
You have to stick here, then you'll go there. But you've just got clarity around options and actually being able to say, I can see something at the end of the tunnel.
I think it's huge. I think for a new generation of people coming through as well, it probably lands a lot clearer. Because there's still this element of trying to have more instant gratification around your work, the way you live, the way you need your parcels in the morning, the way you the way you take food. The whole thing is like now. So if it's not an easy visual thing to kind of go, well, I can just see it. I know I can get it tomorrow if I want to. I think it's a lot more of that could really influence this. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because if it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to be like pining for every second of every day. It's just available. And I think that's the key to it a lot of the time, because I think a lot of the companies just don't know what that really means, and they go, yeah, we've got progression. Yeah. Okay, what does that even mean? It's like, well, you need to sit in that seat for a year, you got to do X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, and then we'll talk about it. It's like, yeah, but what if I do that in 6 weeks? Does that mean it comes forward 40 odd weeks? Or do I still have to wait out the rest of it? What is that? What options do I have? If someone turned around and said, look, realistically, if you look to you to learn X, Y, and Z and go through the motions, learn enough to know that in 12 months' time, you will be ready to tackle any of these scenarios. And there are 5 doors that are open to you at that point. And these are the salaries, and that's what progression kind of looks like. I have no idea which one you're going to choose. I'll just make sure that whatever happens, we'll build you for that point. What do you reckon?
Makes so much more sense,
doesn't it?
Because you've got clarity, you've got something to work towards, you're covering that progression route. People feel that they can stay at the company for longer, and you don't feel like you've got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why a lot of times when they say, "Oh, I need a new challenge," it's just I don't know where to go. And sometimes I think it's a bit of a taboo subject for people to bring up around changing what job they're in, or letting people know that, oh, I'm looking for something more.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes a little bit of that corporate world where you're kind of battling out for people that you might be quite good friends with for the same position, and it gets into those awkward conversations. But yeah, it's I think it all comes down to if you actually put those progression routes in place, then you can upskill the workforce in a way that makes sense, and it doesn't just feel like another task they have to complete on top of the day job.
Yeah.
And it's that balance as well of not just upskilling for the sake of it, of
it
doing
could
it
be
for the
just
right
getting
reasons.
involved with projects though, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be. It can be literally completely direct related to your day job, but it could just be other skills, like project management skills or better kind of communication, or get involved with projects that are a bit more wider. Why wouldn't they're all just skills that you can take with you anywhere you want to go.
Yeah,
I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah, and those people skills as well.
Yeah,
I think sometimes upskilling, you think, okay, I need to learn a new system, I need to learn
I need
this
a certificate.
process, I need a certificate.
Yeah, it's like you don't. What do you need a certificate for? You need life. You need to be armed with like a situation toolkit, like a tool belt almost, to be like, I've been here and I know what this looks like and I know exactly how to get this fixed. That's what it. And maybe that is a certificate or whatever. I'm undermining it slightly, but I think it's scenario based a lot of the time in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Some of it is education. Like I think if you're a developer, you probably know what you're talking about. But like, it's like if you're good and you're great at coding, for example, but you're terrible with people, the only way you're going to get better with people is being around people.
Yeah.
You can't read that. You can't code that. Well, you might be able to. ChatGPT might be able to. You might be able to build a bot that could sit in your seat and you can put like a mic in it. You can just work from home each time.
Yeah. It's not a bad idea, actually.
Great idea, actually.
Do you know what? People have probably done that.
So we can upskill. Tell you what, that's what we're going to do. We don't need to upskill people. We'll just upskill robots.
Yeah.
And then we just do away with the people.
Well, AI I'm going to get this so wrong, but machine learning is kind of AI upskilling itself, right?
Ultimately, machine learning is ultimately the idea of like the actual code, and the machine is actually teaching itself based on what you're inputting and what it's learning around it. This is where it's dangerous though, because what did I watch the other day? You watched Megan?
Oh, what the like Chucky-esque, Chucky-esque.
So I thought it was just like Chucky reincarnating. I'm not sure about this, but I was on the plane back the other day, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to watch it. It has got this horror element into it, but it's got nothing. It's nothing like Chucky.
Oh, really?
It's basically a toy company that builds like the most ultimate toy, and it's a doll, but it's got the internet and machine learning built into it. And then she learns so much about how you interact with children and whatever it may be. And then she learns that actually humanity is a bunch of morons and whatever, and I need to protect this person. And then she goes on like a killing rampage.
That is mental. That is. Do you know what?
So machine learning is like ultimately upskilling herself.
What's scary is that feels so real now.
Well, yeah,
it would not surprise me. Have you seen it? They're just following on from that and like the whole AI piece. They're getting. Alfie was explaining it earlier, but
oh no.
Yeah, so take this with a pinch of salt. But what you say, they're using The Sims, and they're using AI to basically build a world where the Sims can talk to each other based on what happens in the world, and then all of the dialogue between the Sims is basically AI generated, but they eventually build a real world like the Truman Show in The Sims.
No.
Yeah.
That is really crazy.
Yeah. Just a point on that, gamification around upskilling.
Okay.
Definitely a thing. And that's something that a lot of people are looking at in terms of how can we... Sometimes it becomes a little bit competitive as well.
Yeah.
In terms of like, I'm trying to think of what they call it, but I think it's like Salesforce have got like a credit system,
right?
I believe. And then the more courses that you do, the higher stars you have. And then I think it gives you access to more courses, and people then compete about who's more accredited effectively.
Or in Salesforce.
Or any Salesforce.
Or some sort of CRM like that.
Yeah, CRM platform.
I've seen this. I think this works quite well, more likely with like sales-orientated individuals. Naming lights and the rest of it, I've done more than you and all the rest of it. A friendly competition, if that's a real thing.
Yeah.
I like gamification. I think that's quite an interesting way to at least get people to think about what they're doing. At least from a metrics perspective. It's just making it more interesting, isn't it? It's just making it more fun.
Yeah.
But
and not making it... Because as well, I think with upskilling as well, what you said about the certifications, not everyone is great in exams.
No.
So...
I'm bad.
I'm
very bad at exams.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm quite the same, where it's like, I know what I'm talking about, but then if you handed me a recruitment quiz, I guess.
A recruitment quiz?
Recruitment quiz, or
is that a thing?
Exam on recruitment.
Okay, we could just do some questions.
Yeah, I'd probably be quite bad at it.
What kind of questions would you have to? What? Yeah,
I guess. Yeah, there must be some. There must, or when I'm sure. What's the recruitment version of CIPD?
What in this country is RICS, isn't it? RICS.
Yeah, Standards in Recruitment Accreditation. SIR.
SIR.
Yeah. To be fair, this looks like more of an audit.
I was going to say, like,
it's more of like a compliance audit.
Yeah, I've definitely seen like RICS and stuff like that before.
But yeah, I guess it must be, unless they literally just come to your office and watch you do recruitment for a couple of days, and go, you kind of know what you're talking about. I can't see how you, like I said, I can't see how you would put that into an exam. Or
I don't know, mate. I think there's like the REC, Recruitment and Employment Confederation, and that's something you can actually apply to as like an agency, and be like, we want to be associated with you, and they give you templates and guides and network and that type of stuff. But it's not a governing body. We don't have to be governed by anyone to do recruitment. Funny enough, it's quite interesting. Yeah,
that's actually quite surprising as well. Obviously, from a data and from a compliance and onboarding perspective, it's heavily regulated. But in terms of actually...
Even then, it's not though, is it? Like, it's only really more like GDPR and that type of stuff around data protection rather than there's no actual governance. The only governance it tends to be depends on what your client wants. Yeah. Yeah. And your own due diligence on top of that as well, obviously. Yeah. Yeah. But it's interesting, it's not actually there's no regulation at all, really. Which is so surprising considering you're dealing with employment laws. Yeah. But you're not employing them, are you? No. I think that's the thing about with the agency, you're advising, consulting, offering a service in terms of like search and select a lot of the time. So there's like standards that you can abide by, and the REC does a lot of that stuff. But as far as a regulatory body is concerned, there's no one specifically. But how this all kind of fits back into upskilling, at the end of the day, I think at the moment, it's just about thinking about, if you have got gaps in the business, you don't just have to go externally. No. I think that's the long and short of it, really. Like, there will be means for it, and you can use contractors and consultants, and maybe that's a great way to help upskill teams. to actually bring consultants in, say, right, you're an expert in your field, I don't have this skill in my team, I'd like it, can't afford you full time, but why don't we get you in to help do what you do best, but you can train our guys along the way. I'd love to see more of that, because I don't know why, and I see this a lot where they kind of get a contractor in and go, right, well, that's just them, and they just do their thing. It's like they have all that knowledge and all that right there, and you want to put them on an island and not get them involved with the rest of your team. Like,
Yeah,
that's just an easy one.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolute easy one. Like it would encourage people to learn, go and sit with them, understand what they do, how they do it, like actually get that knowledge from that. I think that's just a really, really good one for me. I think there's got to be an angle around what sort of technologies you can use to upskill, because let's face it, in this world now, you don't necessarily need to know everything. You don't need to be this fountain of knowledge and come in with all the answers anymore. You just need to know how to access it and know how to deliver it quite clearly and concisely.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a really interesting way. So if you say, look, we've got this chat GBT thing, you know, Robbie, would you mind going and working this out and see how we can actually embed this in the team and see how that could actually help us create some solutions, and you could be like an SME around that. Amazing. No worries.
Definitely. I think that will be a role that will come into itself.
It has to.
In terms of like, how can we make AI work for the business? We
sat in front of a client today, and they basically said, we don't have to write any more governance letters ever again.
Really? Just
ever again. And I had one person literally go like that, and the other was going, you know, and you can think, well, that is a thing though. It's like they didn't have the expertise, they didn't know. And so rather than hiring someone, rather than giving it to a consultancy, whatever, they literally went on Google, they found out exactly what the template needs to be, they chucked it through ChatGPT, asked their please and thank yous, because that's obviously going to be a big deal, and it spat out at least a good framework of what that governance and what that contract should look like.
Wow. And the speed of it,
it's
the
insane.
price saving.
You can't beat it. You can't beat it. You could not train a human being quick enough than where you could just tap it. And I think that's where a lot of opportunity is going to come around, particularly if you're in a bit of a box at the minute and you're like, I need this new challenge, I want to do something different. It's all there at the minute, a 13.5-inch screen and a login.
Yeah, and especially with more and more Gen Z workers coming in to the workforce as well, they would have grown up around technology and Googling things and ChatGPT and knowing ChatGPT. Yeah, I guess that's the saying. And going, well, I don't know how to do it. I'll just Google it, and then someone will tell me. Something will tell me. I'll work it out. I'll watch a YouTube video. And I think upskilling doesn't necessarily need to directly come from employers either. No. You know, in terms of people skills, languages. That's a lot of things that we see is people say, I'm learning a new language as well. You know, doing things outside of work for your own benefit, can then help you in work as well.
Of course it can, but I look at that and go, even little things about automation of things like your diary, that kind of stuff, like getting yourself better organised. You do not need to be an organised person to be organised. No. You can just get an app. It does it for you. Like, what excuse do you honestly have not just to do it for yourself? You could actually upskill yourself. We talk about it as if it's like someone has to upskill you. It's completely not true. You could actually do it yourself. You could probably even ChatGPT it. Probably. So how do I upskill myself in the workplace and see what it actually gives you? Like, what attributes do I need to think about if I wanted to earn 100 grand a year? I want to be an MD. I want to be a bodybuilder, whatever it may be. What do I need to do? And unfortunately, you already know the answers. You've got to work hard. You still got to do it. You still got to learn. You still got to pump iron for like 5 hours a day. You still got to eat your greens or whatever. You probably actually know the answers. Yeah. So isn't that a funny thing? That you just need some sort of confirmation for a piece of technology to tell you what you already know, probably. Yeah.
And I think, even just in terms of the more traditional way of having someone give you that knowledge, a lot of the times it's probably just confirming what you're doing is right. Because there's probably a quite big thing as well of people say, oh, I'm weak in this area. When really it's just that you're just not confident in that area. You know what you're doing. Yeah. But you just need someone to say you're doing the right thing.
Here we go. Look, I just ChatGPT'd this. How to upskill myself in work, please. Yeah. You've got to put the please.
If you don't say please, then just watch your back. In 20 years,
it's going to come back.
When your toaster's going to come for you. Yeah. When it's Terminator.
Yeah. It's so true as well. There are several ways to upskill yourself in work, depending on your specific goals and the resources available to you. Here's something you can try. Identify your skill gap. Take a long, honest look in the mirror. No,
Wow.
I didn't say that.
I was going to say.
It says take an honest
Sounds
look
like
at
my
your current
therapist.
Just take an honest look at your current skill set and identify areas where you can improve. That's just being honest with yourself, though, isn't it? Knowing what I'm good at and knowing where I need to develop.
Yeah.
Consider asking your manager or colleagues, you mentioned that,
Mm-hmm.
for feedback on your strengths and weaknesses. Take online courses to go online. Numerous online courses available. I've never heard of any of these. Oh, it's LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Udemy. Yeah, Coursera. You've heard of that? I've not heard of that one.
No,
I'm probably so far behind. I was like, yeah, cool, but
Yeah.
never heard of it.
LinkedIn Learning was quite good. Surprisingly good, actually.
Yeah, I like this one. Attend workshops and conferences. Two things there. You have to get out your bloody arse off away from a screen and actually go and talk to a human being. And secondly, you're putting yourself in a very uncomfortable situation where you probably are the least knowledgeable person in the room, and you're surrounding yourself with people who know a lot more than you do.
Yeah.
Double whammy.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good one.
I think one thing that we've always done is just don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, ask more questions.
Mm.
Read industry publications. Meh, boring.
Yeah.
Seek mentorship. I think that's quite a good one. Mentors come in all shapes and sizes as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be something you pay for.
No.
It could just be a friend, family, whatever it may be. So I think that's a really great one.
Funny enough, that's actually quite a good point, because you hear a lot of, especially when you're looking for team leader roles or management roles, and they say, oh, we want someone that can step into it. The number one thing people say if they haven't is, oh, I've mentored people and I've kind of taken people under my wing. And I think it's great to be in an organisation where that does happen, because otherwise you are kind of, like you said, you get a contractor in. They don't have to be their manager and do one-to-ones and appraisals, but just mentor them. And I think that's something that we've always seen, I guess, from entrepreneurs and business owners as well, right? Is having mentors around them and people to kind of just run a question by. Because in terms of upskilling, like I'm sure, I mean, not being funny, but setting Northreach up, you hadn't run a business before from the ground. Like
the last time I did it was selling N64 games when I was about 16 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
how do you do but how do you send an invoice? How do you write terms and conditions?
Oh my God, we sent our first invoice on Excel. Literally, it was just like an Excel thing, 001, here's your invoice. Like,
I think it's in a frame somewhere, isn't it?
No, that was our first kind of remittance.
Oh.
They used to send a couple of clients, used to send them in check form. So you get it in the post. So it'd be, that's what's up on the wall actually, where it's like, they've got the letter, so this is how much we owe you, and then just like that corrugated, like little bit of like bit at the bottom where the check's attached, and you just rip it off and you actually hand it in.
Wow.
Some proud moments they were.
I was going to say, that first one in the post.
What was that for?
Because it would have been at the flat, right?
That was a mile flat, yeah. That was literally like a little tech company in central London, near the Barbican, I think it was, and I think the fee was like $4,500. And I was like, wow, that is the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, I'm literally imagining in my head, it's like you and Ben just literally at the window, like looking for the post.
It was. Because they even said we're sending the post. Like, what? Like, it just can't send it.
Like bank transfer?
Yeah, And no, they sent it in the post. That was really cool. We had a few clients that did that, first of all, actually.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. I haven't seen that in years.
It'd be weird if someone said, can I send it to you in check?
To be honest with you, if someone said, can I send it to you by check, I'd almost question it, as if to say why.
We had one client pay us in cash, didn't they?
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was, interesting.
That was under different circumstances, I suppose, though, to be fair.
Yeah, that was true.
Two more things I think these are quite interesting parts around actually upskilling yourself, things you can do. Take on new projects.
Yeah, definitely.
Take on new projects. Look for opportunities to take on new projects or responsibilities that allow you to develop your new skill. But I suppose that could be anything, couldn't it? Building a bloody soapbox after work. That was a new skill I had to learn.
Well, building's a broad term.
Cool.
Buying and fixing.
Sanding.
Decorating and fixing.
Yeah, well, still.
Yeah. To be fair, that was upskilling on the day.
It was upskilling.
When the wheel broke.
Yeah, exactly. That was interesting.
Yeah, I kind of sat away. I'm not very good at that sort of stuff. So I was like, too many chefs, too many mechanics.
Just going to stand away.
Yeah, someone's going to get a hammer thrown in a minute.
There's the last one here. Practice regularly. Any new skill, regular practice is essential for improving your ability. Look for opportunity to apply your skill on the job or in personal projects. That's probably the one that I think is probably the most important takeaway, is that it's all good and well knowing, but you've got to practice. You've got to practice. So I'm playing guitar, right? I'm saying, okay, loosely, I'm learning to play the guitar.
I think you're underselling that there. You're fairly decent.
I was just waiting to say something. So I've nearly been playing for a year, and I could play a song just about. But there's no way in a million years I could have watched a load of YouTube stuff, watched someone else do it, and just picked it up and done it, and expect that I'm just going to be amazing. It is that work at the end of the day, and I still feel that and that's. I wonder whether or not that was done deliberately to kind of keep it last, or whether or not it should be first. But then again, would you have read it if it was first? If someone said you just got to practice it, you go, sod it, not interested. I don't know if it's a psychological thing. I'm overthinking it, but I
just think maybe in terms of process, the last step is practice.
It has to be. It's all good and well knowing what you've got to do and saying, right, we're going to put you on this course, and you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and you write it all down in your little pad, and it's all organised, all lovely and whatever, and then you just never see it again. You don't use it, you don't execute it, you don't exercise it.
No.
You're never going to use that skill. But there's an art there, is to keep. Okay, so for me, that is probably the biggest part of like learning and developing is practice. And I think that's the bit we talked about earlier around, okay, so you've had a dropout, how does that feel? You cannot teach that feeling. It's impossible to teach that feeling. And I challenge anyone to say anything different on that.
No.
You have to practice it, and you practice what good looks like, what bad looks like. You know what to do, when to do it, what to avoid, and the only way to do it is to practice. That's it.
Yeah, literally.
There's no shortcut.
No, you have to feel the grazes, and you have to kind of fall over and kind
of go. You have to know what bad looks like.
Yeah, you touch the fire and goes, okay, that hurts. Why? I'll touch again. Okay, because it's hot.
And if they do it 3 times, you go, yeah, there's the door.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, look, I don't think you're going out to be a chef.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is
or
like
firefighter for that matter.
yeah, especially a firefighter. But yeah, it is exactly that. It's like, okay, you've made the mistake, and that's completely fine. What did you learn from that? If you're making the same mistakes over and over and over again, you're not learning.
You've got to look yourself in the mirror, I think, if you keep making the same mistake over and over again. You can't blame anyone but yourself if you're doing that.
No. And it's about that practice, but then practice and actually put it into practice as well. Not just doing the same thing over and over and over again and then going, why isn't anything changing?
Yeah.
You're asking for the advice, you're taking it on board, and you're doing the same thing you did before you were given the advice.
That's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Yes.
That is it, isn't it?
Definition of insanity.
Like it. I think that's it. So, okay. So what have we really understood here? So upskilling is definitely something that employers and people alike and everything in between should think about themselves and how they can help and influence others to do that. Should it be a case though that you're upskilling someone or they're upskilling themselves, or is it some mixture between the two?
I think it's both. I think I don't think you can upskill someone if they don't want to do it.
Well, there you go. It's this attitude.
Yeah, I think so they have to do it for
you. You got to want to do it.
Yeah, you can't drag someone kicking and screaming to do it. They need to want to do it for themselves. I think you need that support around you as well. It's difficult to do it completely off your own back. Even like, learning a language. If you do it alongside someone, you can hold each other accountable as well. So it definitely comes from both parts. I think in terms of who brings it up, it shouldn't be a taboo conversation for employees to go to the employers and say, I want to learn more about this and this. How do I get there?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be seen as, oh, you're just trying to jump the ladder too quickly, or you're just looking for the next best thing straight away. Because I think you always need something to work towards, but it shouldn't be on employers to constantly be kind of saying, right, we're rolling out this course for everyone.
Yeah.
A smaller scale, it's obviously a lot easier, right? But if you've got, 1,000 people, and you've only, a HR team and an L&D specialist, there's only so much that a team can do. So it needs to come from both parties.
So there's a challenge there, isn't it? So limited resources. I suppose there'll be time and money constraints. That'll be the first thing people kind of straight away say as an employer, I haven't got time, haven't got the money, haven't got the budget, whatever. And I suppose then you are asking people to do more. So if they've got that work-life balance and they've got like a tight schedules, like how do I fit this upskilling in? I think that's probably, there's an art there. It's probably like a balance. But I think like we said, it's more about, I think that probably goes back to what are you actually doing in your day-to-day? Is everything done in such a way that it's either making or saving some sort of money? Because I think that's really, there's only 2 types of roles within a company. You're either making money or saving it in one capacity or another.
Yeah.
So is what you're focused on right now actually doing one of those 2 things? If it's not, what are you doing? So maybe that's the upskill. It's okay, we don't have to worry about so much adding to your workload, but how about we just make you more efficient about what you do? Is that upskilling?
Yeah, definitely.
So it doesn't cost really much in terms of money, does it? That could just be a case of looking through workload, understanding deadlines, where you're actually at things. Are you taking on too much? Because that's another thing. A lot of people want to hold what they're doing because they're fear of whatever or control. Where actually it's like there's a learn there, there's a challenge there. But if we actually just get you to identify this is a team and there's other people that do stuff, and if you offload it and you delegate, you're still going to deliver. Surely that's a skill that you can help people develop as well. I think I've definitely learned that over the years, is because I used to control so much in the early days, and I know you're smiling very nicely, but that was definitely something that is quite a hard transition, particularly for my background, was like very sales orientated, get the deal done, and need to make this happen, etc., etc., etc. And then it's almost like, okay, I have to train my brain to just give people the tools and a little bit of leeway to make mistakes, learn, and then just guide and support. So for me, there was a huge kind of transition with my attitude and the way I kind of looked at that, to kind of go, I don't need to be the face on it, I don't need to be the name on it, it just needs to be done as best as possible. And if I just change my attitude to it, then everyone will better for that. And Northreach as a company will improve. That was a skill that I definitely had to change. Is it upskilling? I think it probably was.
Yeah, definitely. I just think while you were saying that, I was just thinking you're upskilling a junior member of the team, i.e. me, and by allowing them to make that mistakes and teaching them, okay, how did that feel? Why didn't it work? What can you do differently? At the same time, you're then upskilling yourself by allowing yourself to give up more responsibility and have trust and take your hands away.
These grey hairs, these are all trust lines.
I don't know what this is then. Where's mine gone? When they go grey, I cut them off.
Keep it tight so no one knows.
Yeah. But yeah, it kind of goes both ways as well. And then at the end of it, that's how the business grows and scales, especially at a much larger scale as well. Because if you've got managers or leaders that are still operational when they should be leading people and coaching people, there's not that trust there. No. You're holding people back, so they leave. So you have to pay to replace them.
And then that trust is gone. You got
and then that trust is gone.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of always playing catch up. Going, we're missing this skill set. Bring someone else in, which stops someone else getting promoted or moving up or learning that skill. So they leave, and then you have to find someone else, and you're constantly just replacing the same skills.
Yeah.
And I think if you get going back to that point as well of if other colleagues are training each other as well, you're effectively filling the gaps between everyone, by everyone. So that if someone's off on holiday or there's, on leave or sick or whatever it may be, you can kind of bridge that gap quite quickly because everyone is more consistent.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's another thing as well, right? People's got different ability levels and skills and strengths, but then if the people that if what good looks like is then taught to everyone else and they follow that way, you're a lot more consistent. You're a lot more consistent across the board as well. And
that should really blend into almost like the culture and the values of the business, right? And I know for us here, it's more like we celebrate those successes together. Everybody leaves the pub. You're your own worst enemy most of the time, that kind of stuff. But if you put that around it in terms of the culture, like you quite rightly say, that's infectious. Asking questions, you're not in it on your own. Let's do this together. Let's find those gaps and let's work into them. Yeah, I think that all of that kind of stuff you can do yourself or as a collective.
Yeah, and I think when it's team stuff as well, you can make it so interactive.
Yeah, completely.
And also as well, as long as you're able to step away from those deadlines and, deadlines are deadlines, right? But sometimes if you break it down, you go, okay, how important actually is this right here, right now? Is it more important than making sure that I have a team that know how to write an email to a client in a right way, for example? That's
tricky though, isn't it? Because you kind of got the immediate demand from customers, clients, deliveries, deadlines, all that kind of stuff, and then the long that really is the euphoric piece, isn't it? To go, if I just had a minute to get this done and teach my team how to do this, I wouldn't have to worry about that. And no one ever finds that time.
No.
So they end up just taking on more because they know, and then like you say,
The deadlines get tighter because the quality's not there.
Yeah.
And you're constantly trying to play catch up there as well.
Always.
So sometimes it is just
not doing anything apart from
Yeah.
you deliver, but then you're not training, you're not supporting, you're not consulting, you're not being the leader, you're just operating, you're working in the business rather than on it. There's loads of that stuff. And I know that's definitely a catchphrase that's said to people that run businesses and that kind of stuff. But I still think that idea that if you're working in it, you're not working on it, it's the same principle as if you're just like robotically just doing a job and you're not thinking about what you're learning, how to change it, how you can do it better along the way, then what are you doing? Because you're just repeating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. I think, like you said, it not just applies for you're not working in the business, you work on the business.
Working
same
on
thing.
yourself. It's
You work on yourself.
You just work or you work on yourself, one of the two.
Yeah.
It's either you do something or you don't. You have the choice. If you just want to mindlessly do your job, then go and do it. But don't then whinge about the fact that you're not getting opportunities, you're not getting promoted, you don't get more money. It's like, well, if you stand still, what do you expect? What do you want?
Yeah. And I think that's the main thing as well. What do you actually want? What does progression look like? It's the number one question we ask. I want a new challenge. I want a new. I'm not challenged enough. I need something new.
Do you challenge people?
Change of
When
environment.
you talk to
Yeah.
people, like what kind of answers do you like get?
Normally, people say, "Oh, I need better progression." Okay, what does that look like? I want more money. If I'm being honest, and I think there's still a taboo of people saying, why do you want to leave? I just want to get paid more, and that's the only reason.
Yeah, people don't.
People feel like I think they need to justify it by saying, I need to leave. I want to get more money because I want to get a bigger job or more responsibility. I think if you offered 90% of people more money for the same role that they do,
they'll do it.
They do it.
It's quite rare that we see it the other way. It does happen. It happened to me the other day, actually. There was an individual that offered a job like 30% more salary, better prospects, bigger company, all that kind of stuff. And they were like, better the devil I know, though.
Yeah.
I was like, how do you argue with that? They were like, it's a good job that I've got. It's a good team. I like my manager. The funny, profound thing was, they were like, I know if I stay here, I will not progress. But they wanted to stay anyway.
Yeah.
For their own reason. And it might be because of the company you're going to or whatever it may be.
That
it does make it was quite an interesting thing because it made me think, right, so you know your career progression isn't very good. You don't get paid badly, but you don't get paid well. And the reason why you're staying is just because you're happy. You kind of go, what is this word?
Yeah.
Where's the opportunity though? But what about your career and what about a new challenge? No. I'm just happy.
Yeah. And also I think that's not a bad thing either.
No,
I think massively so. Like there is, everyone always, especially when we speak to clients, like I want someone dynamic who wants to progress. And then you say, well, yeah, but you also want them to do this job for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So there's a fine line between having that dynamic, energetic, I want to learn, I want to better myself. But then it's like, okay, well, we'll flip it on you then. Where's their progression in 18 months' time, 2 years' time, if not shorter?
Do you know what? You make a good point because sometimes, and I'd love to hear this more, where clients go, do you know what? It is just a job, this particular role I've got, and this is what it looks like. And we haven't really got many career aspirations for this role because it kind of just is what it is, but it will teach you X, Y, and Z. And that might take you on to something else in the future.
Yeah.
What's so wrong about being brutally honest?
And also, I think it's a better sell.
Well, it's an easy sell. This is the job. You will literally do this and you probably won't go anywhere. You might get a pay rise with inflation, maybe, but it will teach you X, Y, and Z and get your foot in the industry. How about that?
Yeah. And in 18 months' time, they go, look, thanks for doing the job. We've taught you a load and we can't offer you the progression, but you can go elsewhere.
Yeah. Or you can just
be
stay
honest.
in the same job.
If you want to continue doing that job, that's fine. If you want to use us as a stepping stone, do it.
So it really is like a mixture, isn't it? It needs to come from you. It can't be forced upon by an employer or a lead or a mentor or any of those.
It can't seem like a chore.
It can't seem like a chore. And you've got to want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So if you're a manager looking to upskill your team, you really need to find out, first of all, do they want to be upskilled? So you might go, okay, let's identify the gaps. Let's look at my people. What are the skills we can upgrade in my team, my organisation, or whatever, or foster or encourage or whatever. But then it's like going, right, here are the gaps I'm aware of, everybody. Who wants to do what? These are the projects that we need to deliver. Who's got skills for X, Y, and Z? I think this is more how they run what they call teal organisations. So an RBI is definitely a good example of this, where Kevin Bajasi is very much like, okay, we have projects and deliverables, and this is where we need to get to as an organisation. We're going to hire a collective of intelligent people that have got this type of personality, this kind of background, etc. And then rather than doing a hierarchical kind of way to say, well, you've got the most experience on paper for management, so you're the best manager, it's more like, right, if we need to deliver like 6 projects and we've got 50 people in the organisation, how can we ensure that we get the best people for each of those projects, no matter on their experience? So they can't completely flip it. So that encourages upskilling, pushing, doing new projects, different things, using different skills, all those types of elements, which I think is quite a really cool way to do it. But it must still start with identifying what they need, looking at a workforce of individuals or technology or AI or whatever, and go, who actually wants to do it, what's at my kind of fingertips so I can actually use. And you still must have to put like a timeline on it and actually go, this is what to expect, that whatever I say and whatever I do and whatever I decide, we have to work on it.
Yeah,
I can't just tell you one meeting, I'm going to upskill you and that's it, done.
Yeah,
you have to work on it.
Even just the term upskilling and approaching someone, I think sometimes you need. That's why a lot of it comes out of one-to-ones, right? You have the one-to-one and you say, okay, what are you getting on with? What are you struggling with? Okay, we'll work on that. I think it's difficult as well just to point fingers and say, right, John, you're really bad at writing emails.
John?
Yeah.
What's wrong with John? Why are you pointing at John?
That's just the first name to come to my head.
Okay, John.
If you could, like, say, your weakness is this, another person, your weakness is that, you're good at that, you're good at that, so you're going to teach each other how to do it. Sometimes it feels like a bit like, okay, finger pointing, I'm not good at it, it's a bit embarrassing, sometimes pride gets in the way. So I think it's having those conversations of, where do you think you're going wrong? And then politely redirecting people if they need to say, actually, this is where you're going wrong. Yeah. And not just saying, right, we all, everyone, you can't do X, Y, and Z, so we're going to put you on a course. It needs to be a little bit more positive and more constructive.
I think it needs to be more there. I think it needs to kind of go hand in hand to say, this is going to help you do your job more efficiently, better. You're going to get more joy about what you're doing. And actually, what I'm really trying to tell you is that if you generate this skill or ability, no matter where you go, you've got that for life.
With him, what's in it for me?
Yeah, and I think that's another one, because that for me as an employer would be like, well, look, no matter whatever the job is or whatever you're here to do, whatever your plan is, how about I just get you to a point that whatever you do is going to benefit you for the rest of your life, or at least for the near term.
Yeah.
But it's going to benefit me because I'm going to get like a resource or a deliverable or something out of you at the same time. And guess what? Along the way, we'll work better because the whole thing is going to work in a bit more efficiently because we all know what's going on. We know what the weaknesses are. We know what the pros are. We know what we're working on. Surely, as just like a hive, that's a better place to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds the part anyway.
Definitely. I think
sounds good.
Yeah, it has to be that collaborative effort by everyone.
And
everyone's pulling in the same direction. And just saying, look, if it's not working, it's not working. A lot of the times as well. If people don't want to do it, let's not force them to do it. We're going to waste our time, their own resources. If people don't want to do it, don't want to do it.
Yeah. Be interesting to see what technology throws at us to kind of test this kind of stuff. Because if you we talk about governance and regulatory. If you work in a governance and regulatory way, I've definitely seen it. Who was it we worked with before that was doing VR when it comes to like fire safety? Do you remember them?
No, I think it's before me.
So they were basically developing like a scenario based like headset for like if you were in a tower block, for example. So say if you worked in like a 40-story, 50-story kind of tower block and there was a fire on like the 12th floor, what do you do? And it would literally simulate that office and you're like the fire warden getting people out all in this virtual kind of world. It's really quite cool.
Pretty cool.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, I think VR will definitely have much more of an impact, and technology will have much more impact on how people do upskill.
Must be, because you can simulate real life events. I mean, in this scenario, it's quite like catastrophic event. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like if there's a fire or you can't get out of your trap because of an earthquake or a terrorist attack or whatever, and you're stuck somewhere. There are people that are trained, I suppose, at least theoretically speaking, how you deal with that situation. But now the world's moved a lot more visual. If you could actually simulate that in a real life way. I mean, you showed me that stuff with all like the new graphics and that kind of stuff. It's like lifelike now. I know
Yeah.
everyone says it for every generation. Oh, dude, remember PS1? It was so real life. But now
Yeah.
it really is getting so close.
Yeah.
So close. So you could actually simulate this office with something going on, and then you could actually run a simulation using AI, VR, machine learning on how to develop that scenario. And every time you do it, it could be different because it learns what you do. There you go.
Yeah.
If that's not patentable, I don't know what is.
Definitely. Someone's probably developing that as we speak.
That's a pretty cool way of thinking about it, though, isn't it? So
Yeah.
actually, you could use all of those elements because like VR was like almost come in and kind of went, didn't really work.
Yeah, I've seen
Still
the
got to wear headsets,
metaverse
still
and-
look like a goof. Like,
yeah, and then it's the hand ones as well. It's just all, yeah, I think there's still work to be done on that. And I think sometimes as well, do you necessarily need it if you're an underwriter, for example?
yeah, probably not.
You don't necessarily need it, but then that training is not classroom based. You give people real life situations, projects to work on.
When they look at that in the meta, wasn't that a thing where you can create an avatar and basically go to work as an avatar?
I think that was the whole
That's the
metaverse
idea,
thing
isn't
is
it?
that whole thing, yeah. But that's more around, you don't need to go to an office, you can work from home and then have an office in the metaverse.
Yeah. 'Cause I
So
saw
we would
that.
have this office, but everyone would be at home wearing headsets.
Yeah, and it'll be just done virtually. But
Yeah.
it could look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And you actually sit down, all the rest of it.
Yeah. Not for me. Not for me personally.
Maybe
but
like from a training perspective, scenario-based stuff, that's where it could really work, isn't it?
yeah.
Imagine that. Imagine if you had it, so if you had different scenarios, no matter what it is, and you could program that, and then you could literally simulate that scenario, and then be tested on it, get grades on it, you know, actually learn knowledge from what you're actually doing in a virtual capacity, and then take it into real life.
Definitely. And I think with the technology that's coming out, that's definitely gonna happen, and especially for more practical roles as well, where you're actually working with your hands. I think there's definitely more case for that. Or, for example, you say, right, you're a fire warden. Rather than it's all theoretical, what would you do in this situation? A little bit like first aid is, right? First aid is very hands-on.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of doing,
Doctors.
doctors,
Surgeons.
that sort of stuff.
I saw this the other week when I was in Dubai, and there is like companies now that are developing robotics using artificial intelligence, where you could be a surgeon, and say for those like more remote places or battlefields or whatever it may be, where it's a surgeon, you know, in life and death situation, you cannot get a surgeon quick enough. So what if you could actually send out a bunch of robots ultimately, or machinery, where the surgeon could be sitting on a beach in the Bahamas, for example, non-intoxicated by, you know, pina coladas, and actually do a surgery on the beach, but in Colorado or in Egypt or in the UK or wherever you are, but he's somewhere completely different, and it's so responsive and close that it's actually like the surgeon doing it in a completely different country, and then that machine learns what they did, so they can learn the techniques and everything like that for later on.
That is scary.
That's happening. That is a thing. That's a real life thing that's happening.
It's so clever, but it's quite scary at the same time. I don't know if it's scary in a good way or scary in a bad way, but
Bit of both. You've not seen that Kevin Bacon advert?
that's exactly what I was thinking. I don't know if that's real or
I'd like to ask him.
yeah. When he's on the mountain, and he gets
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's like shaving, doing a wet shave, isn't it, top of
Yeah,
the
with
mountain,
the robot.
using their
Oh.
network,
Yeah,
and it's done all robotically from a barber's in God knows where.
yeah.
Pretty cool.
But then I suppose you could kind of teach the robots. Well, because it's kind of like the automated cars as well, right? Where on Top Gear, where they drove the BMW round the track, and then it recognised the route, how it did everything, and then did the exact same time.
What, like, did it the same time or better?
From memory, I think it did the same. Like it followed it exactly the same.
Wow.
Braking points, steering, everything.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was a fair few years ago as well. So
There's plenty of things that you can use, I think, with AI, particularly.
mm.
There's loads of apps now. I don't know if on my LinkedIn you get these messages that pop up say this is what ChatGPT is like, can work with, and there's like a bunch of other apps that goes, this is great for, I don't know, text or imagery or content or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I see them all the time.
So many things now. Even that's quite overwhelming already.
Mm.
That's only been around for over a year.
Yeah, literally, November last year. Yeah.
Pretty mad, isn't it? So we'll see. We'll see what really comes of it. But Yeah, I'm still excited. I think scared and excited.
Yeah. I think you get scared of the uncertainty, the unknown. You don't know where it can lead to.
No.
But then the excitement is, okay, I don't know where this could lead to. And
yeah, it works both ways.
It works both ways. So it's certainly an interesting future.
I think
and
so.
how it will impact the workforce.
But that's my biggest takeaway probably, is that to be upskilled or to upskill somebody in any way, in any kind of way you want to think about that, it's not just about the identification of what you need, it's the actual execution and almost like that consistent practice of doing it to make you better and running through different scenarios, understanding what different paths actually look like, and probably walking some of those paths actually to see what they really would be like. That for me is probably the biggest, probably the best way to describe what you need to do to upskill anything. You've got to work at it.
Yeah.
Work at it. Figure it out. Yeah. What do you actually want from it, first of all, rather than just going, let's just do it. So what's the end goal? Where do you want to be? And then identify the gaps, figure out who's actually engaged, what tools you can actually use, and then work on it. And then work on it again and get it wrong and get it wrong again and then get it wrong again and get it a little bit less wrong the next time. And then off we go. And then just take it day by day and realise that some people are going to be on that path and some people won't. And that's fine.
And go with the timing as well.
Don't be scared of technology. Just say your please and thank yous.
Yeah. That's the biggest
Otherwise,
message.
your toaster will come back to get you in 20 years' time.
Exactly. That sounds like a gift that Ivana and DeVrita should make.
Yeah, I want to see that. Cool, man. I have nothing more on this comment because I think otherwise it's going to go down a road of like seriously deep tech and stuff I have no understanding whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm already a little bit out of my depth. So you're a lot more tech-minded than me. So maybe there's some upskilling for me to do there.
There you go. Download ChatGPT. Have you got ChatGPT?
Yeah.
What, the paid one, or do you use
No, I've just got the free one.
Benefits of using.
Yeah.
I've got the paid one. It's really like, I think you only pay like, I don't know how much it is, $15 a month, dollars a month.
What's the differences?
It's faster, and you get the most recent version of it as well.
Yeah, because sometimes I can't log in.
Yeah, it doesn't do that. So on the paid one, you get to log in all the time.
Cool.
The only problem is I find myself like asking it everything.
Yeah.
I don't even want to share half the stuff I looked at. Star Wars names.
Star Wars names?
Yeah, I probably was looking for my kids. I was like, Django Fett.
This is my daughter.
Captain Rex. Sabine Wren. I don't know some of these people.
Yeah. Captain Rex is a great name for a dog.
C-3PO?
That's pretty quite obvious. I mean, you never know. It's quite woke.
It is quite woke. Let's not go down that road.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, mate, I think that was a good little chat.
Nice one. Appreciate it.
What's the next one we're doing?
The modern workforce.
The modern workforce. Cool. Stands you for that.
Yeah. Gen Z.
Comparison between Gen Z and millennials. How is that dynamics and how is it changing?
Oh.
The landscape.
You're team millennial.
I'm team millennial.
I think I fall into Gen Z.
You're
about.
Gen Z.
I do.
Yeah.
I've been told I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm quite
interesting
one. That one.
We'll catch us next time.
Yeah. Stay tuned.